Welcome to NDNU's podcast, where we bring higher education to life through conversations that matter. Tune in as we unpack current trends, explore big ideas, and spotlight voices from across the Notre Dame University community. Today, we are focusing on, well, one of the most significant professional decisions an educator can make: pursuing advanced training. The source material draws our attention specifically to master's degrees in education, and it poses a very practical yet surprisingly multifaceted question, which is right there in the title. How long does it take to get a master's degree in education?
That title is so important because it immediately gets to the heart of the matter. The duration isn't some fixed number. It's a complex variable, and it's governed by very specific programmatic choices. So I think what we need to determine are the key structural factors, the variables really, that shape the actual time commitment for someone, and how prospective students can best navigate that whole spectrum of options.
Absolutely. And before we dive into the mechanics of credits and timelines, I think it's vital to acknowledge why this investment is so valuable in the first place, and why people are often so eager to accelerate it. The article, I think rightly, points out that education isn't just a path to individual success, but it's a powerful global force. I mean, it's cited by the World Bank as a critical driver of global development, of strengthening stability and health, and lowering poverty. This enormous context sort of underscores why speed and efficiency are so valued.
I think that global significance is precisely why we need to be a little cautious about prioritizing speed above all else. If the stakes are really that high, driving stability and health, then the commitment to comprehensive training has to be paramount. So while the general benchmark in the material is that a full-time master's program usually takes about 2 years, we have to emphasize that that 2-year window is, well, it's extremely fragile. It's highly dependent on the degree program and the institution. The real debate is whether that drive for acceleration compromises the depth needed to fulfill that critical role.
I see your point about caution, but I think that perspective kind of misses the fundamental reality of the professional world, which is efficiency. The structural difference between undergraduate and graduate degrees itself suggests a strong pathway for optimization. A bachelor's program, it demands, 120 to 130 credits? A master's program, conversely, requires only 30 to 60. That considerably lower credit range inherently suggests that accelerated completion isn't just possible, it's probably the optimal path for an educator who is focused on making an immediate impact.
That credit comparison is numerically accurate, yes, but I would frame it a little differently. I'd highlight the sheer intensity of graduate work. Those 30 credits are not at all equivalent to 30 undergraduate credits. The article notes that, theoretically, a highly motivated student taking the absolute maximum course load could finish in about a year. But this hinges entirely on that student having no other commitments, which is frankly almost impossible for working educators. And it also depends on term length. Not all schools use a traditional 15-week semester. Some offer shorter, much more intensive terms. Finishing in 1 year means constant, nonstop academic immersion.
For those highly motivated professionals, though, that flexibility is the key benefit. And the opportunity for immediate advancement, well, it justifies that intensity. We have to emphasize the explicit options available for this. The material mentions accelerated master's degree programs that are specifically engineered for 1-year completion. Academic advisors exist for this exact reason: to guide these individuals toward tailored options, to maximize transfer credits, and structure a timetable that minimizes the time they're not fully utilizing that higher earning potential.
I'm sorry, but I just don't see why acceleration should be held up as the ideal experience. We have to look at the counterexamples that demonstrably lengthen the timeline because they prioritize deep knowledge over just getting a credential quickly. The material talks about dual degree programs. Now, these are attractive for expanding your professional capacity, but they require you to be enrolled in 2 different graduate tracks at the same time. By definition, these programs will take significantly longer than a single degree, often extending well beyond that 2-year benchmark. So the question becomes, is the speed of a 1-year degree worth sacrificing the dual expertise you could gain in a longer track?
That is a legitimate trade-off, I'll grant you that. But the majority of professionals are seeking specialization in one key area, where that 30-credit model is still highly functional. Let's look at the common path. the Master of Arts or MA in Education. This typically requires 30 credits. The core coursework is focused, it's functional, covering areas like curriculum development, educational assessment, which, means rigorous methods for testing and measuring student progress, and educational research. These degrees provide advanced skills without bloating the credit requirement.
That's a compelling argument for efficiency. I see that. But let's compare that to other specializations that actually maintain that same credit load. The MA in School Administration is a perfect example. It's also a 30-credit option, which suggests time consistency is possible across different fields. However, the focus shifts entirely. It moves away from classroom teaching and into management, leadership, financial management in schools, which involves incredibly complex tasks like navigating federal grants or local bond issues, and human resources. Even in this 30-credit model, the sheer administrative complexity demands a comprehensive effort, usually ending in a capstone course, which is a major project.
And building slightly on that complexity, you have the MA in Educational Therapy. It presents a slightly higher commitment, requiring 33 credits. This small increase, it really reflects the highly specialized nature of the curriculum. It includes very detailed subjects like neuropsychological principles in education and specific instructional strategies for students with reading difficulties. The real variable here, though, is the practical requirement. This program mandates internships at schools or clinics or universities. So while the extra 3 credits are manageable, the scheduling of those hands-on requirements often extends the timeline.
That 33-credit requirement is exactly where the idea of a standard MA starts to break down. And this brings us to the programs that truly challenge that whole notion of a standardized 2-year timeline. The most significant outlier in the article is the MA in Special Education. This isn't 30 or 33 credits. We're talking about a substantial difference, typically 44 credits. I would argue this is not institutional bloat. It is a necessity driven by the intense, complex needs of the students being served. When you combine that much higher course load with essential practical components like student teaching, the completion time is demonstrably impacted. It illustrates precisely why that 2-year standard is just not sufficient for preparation in a critical field like this.
I would argue that the additional time for those longer programs, like special education, is directly proportional to the increased professional opportunity. It's driven by external mandates more than academic necessity. We need to shift the focus back to the return on investment, the immediate benefits. A master's degree fundamentally serves professional advancement through specialization. Whether it's special education or early childhood, that specialization allows educators to work effectively with students who need tailored instruction. And, what's more, getting this degree often ensures compliance with state and school requirements for certain teaching positions, making the time investment a prerequisite for eligibility.
I come at it from a different angle. Focusing only on compliance or specialization, I think, risks overlooking the very tangible and immediate career rewards that directly offset that time cost. Beyond just being eligible for a job, there's a clear financial benefit. Earning a higher salary. The article emphasizes that even new teachers with a master's are significantly more marketable and often get better initial compensation than those with only a bachelor's. So if we frame the degree as a high-stakes investment, then the depth required for mastery, even if it takes longer, actually protects that investment by ensuring better placement and long-term performance.
That financial return is undeniable, and it extends well beyond just the starting salary. It reinforces the long-term career benefits. I mean, having an advanced degree qualifies professionals for a much broader range of positions, critically including stepping into roles in department leadership or school administration. This fundamentally shifts their career trajectory from the classroom to broader, more influential roles across the entire institution.
But let's bring it back to the core mission that justifies this intensive time commitment in the first place. The most profound justification is simply the improved ability to make a difference. The expertise you acquire through a rigorous master's program fundamentally enhances an educator's understanding of pedagogy, of cognitive science, of curriculum design. This allows them to better engage students, to deeply understand how students learn, and to more effectively address the multifaceted challenges students face. The intrinsic value of professional competence, in my view, has to outweigh the desire for rapid completion.
To summarize, then, the time required for a master's in education is highly flexible. It ranges widely based on a student's choices. Our discussion shows it can range from potentially 1 year in an accelerated track all the way to, well, longer than 2 years. For programs with higher credit requirements, like the MA in special education at 44 credits, or if a student opts for a dual degree path.
And the core message is that personal goals and professional necessity must drive that academic planning. Anyone serious about career advancement really has to be diligent. They should explore specific program details, consult with academic advisors about transfer credits, and look at all the available options to find that right balance between timeline and expertise. The degree should be viewed not just as a credential, but as a necessary investment in professional depth.
Thanks for joining us on the Notre Dame de Nemours University podcast, where higher education meets real-world insight. If today's conversation inspired you to keep growing professionally, explore NDNU's general education programs and certificates, designed to help you build new skills and advance with confidence. Learn more at ndnu.edu or give us a call at 650-508-3600. Classes are enrolling now. See you next time.